Notre Dame is going to beat Ohio State. Ohio State fans are probably already pissed off. They're already angrily typing on their keyboard. You're probably saying, JT, you really think Notre Dame's going to beat us? Notre Dame, they get overhyped every single year and they always come up short every single time they play a big boy. Every single time they go up against an elite team, they get blown out. Well, I'm trying to tell you people that this Notre Dame team is different. And I'm not just saying that because I know it gets thrown out there every single year, but I feel it in my soul. They got Sam Hartman at quarterback. Sam Hartman is better than Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord played terribly against Indiana. Now, he has looked better, but the teams that he's been playing against, Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, they aren't Notre Dame. They don't have Notre Dame talent. This is a proven game for Kyle McCord. Sam Hartman gives Notre Dame the quarterback advantage in this game. Anytime that Notre Dame has gone into a game of this magnitude against an elite team, they've always been at the disadvantage when it comes to the quarterback matchup. They've never had the advantage in any game that they've been in of this magnitude where they could confidently say our quarterback is better than the opposing teams. Against Clemson, last season, they had Drew Pine. He wasn't good, but they were still able to pull off the upset against Clemson. This season, they got Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman, with his experience and how good he's looked with Notre Dame up to this point, I feel like he's going to have a really good day against that Ohio State defense. Ohio State fans keep saying, oh, this defense is so improved. Like, you haven't been tested. You haven't. Who have you went up against that even is remotely close to being able to test your defense? You went up against Western Kentucky. They do got a really good quarterback in Austin Reed, but you're just way more superior than them talent-wise. Minnesota? Minnesota's offense is terrible, man. Like, too many Big Ten people try to hype up other Big Ten opponents, man. Like, Minnesota was getting hyped up this season. Their offense sucks. There's only about a handful of teams in the Big Ten that actually have a serviceable offense. You look at Indiana, their offense was terrible. Their offense still stinks. They can barely get to 14 points. It's a dogfight for them to get to 14 points. How is that challenging Ohio State's defense? Like, people tend to overrate these Big Ten teams every single year. Like Ohio State, people kind of give this team the benefit of the doubt because of how dominant they look against their competition. Their competition isn't good enough to test them. Like, bro, we got to stop making it seem like the Big Ten is just such this juggernaut of a conference that we should just give teams the benefit of a doubt without them truly being tested. Like, people were trying to say Minnesota was going to be a sleeper team. Iowa was going to be a team to look out for. Wisconsin was going to be a team to look out for. Like, people continue every single season to overrate these Big Ten programs. Every single year, just because the reputation that the conference has, the Big Ten is overrated, man. Ohio State hasn't been proven. Like, you got Buckeye fans walking around with their chest poked out like they've actually proven something this year when you haven't proven shit. Kyle McCord hasn't proven anything. He's looked good. He's proven that he can be serviceable, but he hasn't proven that he can win you a big game on the road, and that's something that Ohio State fans never talk about. They just keep overlooking the fact that they got to play this game on the road. You guys do know that the majority of upsets that happen in college football happen when the team that's the underdog is hosting at home. Alabama's 2 losses last year occurred where? On the road against Tennessee and on the road against LSU. Oregon almost lost to Texas Tech where? On the road. When you're playing on the road, that's where a team that is perceived to be the better team is kind of at a disadvantage. The home crowd gets going. Your team can kind of get a little bit rattled. And when you got a quarterback like Kyle McCord, who's never played in an environment like this, you got to ask yourself, is he going to be able to live up to the hype? Is he going to be able to thrive in a game like this? This is somebody that was highly touted coming out of high school, top 50, top 100 player in his class. He has the talent and he has huge expectations, but is he going to be able to thrive in a situation like this? This is a hostile environment. Notre Dame has a good defense. I think that their defensive line is going to be able to have a lot of success getting after Kyle McCord in this game, because I don't think that Ohio State's offensive line is as good this season as it has been in previous years. I think this may be the weakest offensive line that Ohio State has had in the last couple of years. Defensively, like, we know Jim Knowles is a really good defensive coordinator. He's a respected defensive coordinator. But we don't know if this defense is going to be as improved as Buckeye fans are trying to say it's going to be. Like, you don't really know how good this defense is because you haven't gone up against a team that's been good enough to really challenge your defense. I mean, come on, bro. Like, I don't think enough people are really giving Notre Dame a fair shake in this game. Anytime I listen to a preview or prediction, like, you just got people going off narratives. Nobody's judging Notre Dame for the team that they have this season. They got Sam Hartman, man. They got one of the best offensive lines in college football. They got a more than capable wide receiver room. They got a really good defensive line. The only thing that you can confidently say about this game that is going to put Notre Dame at a disadvantage is that their cornerbacks in their secondary aren't going to be able to stop Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a different animal. They're going to find ways to get those guys the ball. But if Notre Dame can get consistent pressure on this offensive line, and let's say Kyle McCord gets rattled by the home crowd, that's enough to slow those guys down, because if Kyle McCord can't get them the ball, then how can they be game changers? How can they be effective? Receivers can only affect the game when they got the ball in their hands. I trust Sam Hartman against Ohio State's defense. He's a veteran quarterback. He's been around the block. He's been in plenty of big games. He's had plenty of big performances. And with this good offensive line that he has against a really good Ohio State front, I think that he's going to have enough time to get these passes to these wide receivers in space and for them to do damage. Notre Dame has a really good team. Like, we got to stop judging Notre Dame based off narratives. We know what Notre Dame has done in the past. So what? 2012, Notre Dame isn't playing in this game. 2023, Notre Dame is playing in this game. And the 2023 Notre Dame squad that's going to be taking the field against Ohio State in this matchup, I believe confidently is going to beat Ohio State. Ohio State is playing on the road. A lot of upsets occur on the road. They got a disadvantage at quarterback. Kyle McCord, I'm not saying he's going to play terrible in this game, but I trust Sam Hartman way more than I trust Kyle McCord. Like, just because this dude is doing good against jabronis doesn't mean he's going to thrive against Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a way better defense than Youngstown State and Western Kentucky. Like, man, like, people just trying to find ways to try to downplay Notre Dame. Like, I really hope Notre Dame wins this game, man. I really do. Like, the only thing that kind of concerns me about Notre Dame is Marcus Freeman and the coaching staff that Notre Dame has. Now, they got a solid coaching staff, but Ryan Day has been in a lot of big games, and he has a lot of experience when it comes to having his team ready for a game like this. Now, Notre Dame last season, you know, they did have some ugly losses, but they got some big wins against Clemson and North Carolina. So even though Ryan Day may have the advantage from a coaching standpoint, that doesn't mean that I don't think that he's going to coach circles around Marcus Freeman. Like, Marcus Freeman, this isn't his first rodeo, him going up against a big-time team where Notre Dame wasn't the favorite to win. They beat Clemson, they beat South Carolina. I like Notre Dame to win this game. 27-24 is my final score prediction. I think that the Irish are going to come away with the victory. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And Mike Gundy has been the head coach of Oklahoma State football for 19 years. When you think of Oklahoma State, you think of Mike Gundy. His face is just cemented with Oklahoma State football. There's no way that you don't think of Mike Gundy anytime you see that Oklahoma State logo pop up on your screen. But it may be time for Oklahoma State to go in a different direction, because Oklahoma State is starting to go backwards under Mike Gundy. This was a program that at one point was consistently winning 9-10 games every single season. But ever since they had their 10-win season back in 2017, they've only had one 10-win season since. In 2018, 7-6, 2019, 8-5, 8-3 in 2020. Yeah, 2021 was that big year when they won 10 plus games for the first time since that last 10 plus win season they had in 2017. But outside of that, Oklahoma State has been a mid program in the Big 12. And, it's kind of a little bit harsh to say because they don't recruit bad. They do recruit pretty well, and they do utilize the transfer portal pretty well, but they just, for some reason, can't seem to make it work when it comes to the hires on the coaching staff. Many Cowboy fans want the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator to be gone, and you got blown out by South Alabama 33-7. Like, when is that ever excusable? Like, you only can be fair to criticize Mike Gundy and question his job security. I mean, he's been here for nearly 2 decades, but eventually some dudes just lose it. And Mike Gundy may just be losing it. And you look at the state of the Big 12, even though Oklahoma and Texas are departing for the SEC, things aren't getting any easier. You got Colorado, Utah coming into that thing. Texas Tech is coming up. Kansas State are on the rise, and Oklahoma State, it just looks like they're getting farther and farther behind the 8-ball. I mean, they still can't recruit at a high enough level where they can be a legitimate championship contender. And when you look at how many star players for Oklahoma State have left this program over the last couple of years, it got to make you wonder what actually is going wrong with Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State football. I mean, your starting quarterback, Spencer Sanders, last season transferred to Ole Miss, and he didn't even win the starting job. He rather said, man, I'd rather enter the transfer portal and earn my job versus remaining the unquestioned starting quarterback here because of some odd reason. The offensive line still is terrible. Mike Gundy, funny enough, after that loss against South Alabama, he said that they don't really have any big concerns. You sure about that? Because you don't have a quarterback, your offensive line is terrible, your defense isn't good. It looks like you got a lot of concerns to me. Is Mike Gundy just allowing the game to pass him by? Like, I know I'm not a head coach, and I'm not one who should really be questioning what a head coach should do or shouldn't, but when you're regressing like this and used to be a program that was around 9 to 11 wins every single season, you go from that to being a middle of the pack team in the Big 12, I think everybody has a right to question what you're doing. I mean, Oklahoma State was one of those programs that people thought would be able to benefit from the college football playoffs expanding. When that thing expanded to 12 teams, many people looked at Oklahoma State and it was like, yeah, this is the opportunity for them to really get in the door. But now they're losing to South Alabama. I don't even know if they're going to be able to beat Iowa State. Because, I mean, their previous wins, such as the one that they got against Arizona State, haven't been dominant. And that's what really concerns me the most. Against inferior opponents, they're not really dominating them how they should. Oklahoma State, man, I think it's time for Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State to go their separate ways. You can't be a head coach at one school for your whole entire life. Eventually, you got to part ways. And I think now is a good time for Oklahoma State to start looking at some other options at head coach. Because Mike Gundy in this program, they're not going anywhere. And I mean, even if they do get the 6-7 wins, I mean, what's so special about that? You're still in the same place that you have been for the last 6 years. Outside of that 12-win season that you had in 2021, you haven't had anything remotely close to that. And Oklahoma State, although they do recruit pretty well, they still aren't recruiting top 25 classes or top 10 classes or anything like that. So they still do have to do a really good job at player development, which falls on the coaching staff. And when you got a bad coaching staff, those players aren't going to get developed. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, I know that Mike Gundy is ceremonious with this program and he's a big icon when it comes to Oklahoma State football. But I do think that it's fair to say that I don't think Oklahoma State will be wrong to go in a different direction from him after this year. Now, they very well could turn things around next season. They get a better portal class. He makes some changes on the coaching staff that work out. But what if it doesn't work out again? I mean, Spencer Sanders left. Your star defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, left. I mean, why is everybody leaving Oklahoma State? What's really going on with this program? I just think it's time for a change.